But these classes that they're offering online, they're not required, and they're not, as far as I'm aware of, none of them are actually certified. There's not an agency out there or anything that's going out and saying, okay, if you take these classes, you can now become a broker. That's just not how it works.
Or looking at other avenues to build a business and make income for their family. And one thing I've seen a lot of truck drivers do, and a lot of people that want to become brokers in the game of the trucking industry, is they want to go out and get their broker's license. And the first thing they do is they go online, Instagram, YouTubes, and all this, and look up how to become a broker. And that's where the scam kind of begins.
Basically, we're based out of Van Buren, Arkansas. I'm second generation in the transportation industry. My father started driving a truck in the early to mid 70s. I became an owner operator around 1978. He did that all the way up to the mid 80s. When he went out and started working inside of an office setting, being a dispatcher and then eventually a broker. In 1989, he opened his excuse me, his own brokerage and called General Transportation. It's still around today. That's actually a big part of what I do. But in 2005, we opened an asset division as well. We primarily focus on owner operators. Do have a few company trucks in the mix, but it's really an owner operator based company. And so we run both our brokerage and our asset company out of Van Buren. Have a few offices throughout the country, and just trying to haul some freight, man. That's pretty much us in a nutshell.
The broker scam. They go on YouTube, they go on Instagram, social media, and the first thing you're thinking is you need some type of license to become a broker. And mentors and YouTube influencers are charging sometimes thousands of dollars to become a reputable, what is it? What would you call this? A certified broker?
That's the term we hear more often than not is certified. Uh, and so the first time I ever actually encountered this was a while back. We started getting some phone calls from individuals. Most of them were either company drivers or owner operators calling into our brokerage side saying, hey, I'm a certified broker. How do I come to work for you? So we started having a conversation with them. It's like, well, what do you mean by certified broker? And they said, well, I've taken this class. I went to the schooling or several different things. And so I was very unfamiliar. Like I said, my father's been in this 40 plus years. I've been in it close to, 20. And so I looked into it and I'm like, okay, what are we missing out on here? How do we become a certified broker and why aren't we? So really started looking at all these classes and everything and just found that they're just internet classes, they're YouTube classes. And I've seen them as cheap as $500, as expensive as $4,000 or $5,000. And we get calls on a weekly basis from individuals that are wanting to make that transition from being a driver or owner operator to a broker. And I very much understand what they're trying to accomplish. I really do. And we want to help facilitate that if we can. But these classes that they're offering online, they're not required. And they're not, as far as I'm aware of, none of them are actually certified. There's not an agency out there or anything that's going out and saying, okay, if you take these classes, you can now become a broker. That's just not how it works.
Wow. So everybody out there in social media internet world know that there's no such thing as a certified broker. Now, if you do want to be a broker, what do you need to become a broker, Jason? If a truck driver or someone want to become a broker
Mhm.
and start their own business, they can literally start it.
Technically, yes. Anyone can go out and be a broker. It's that, like I said, there is no certifications for that. But if you want to start a brokerage, there is still federal regulations that you have to abide by. First thing you're going to need to do is go out and start a company, get an EIN number, just like if you were becoming a carrier. Well, a carrier can actually, do it through their personal name, but that's step number one. Next piece of the pie is go out. You have to have a surety bond. I believe the federal minimum is $75,000 surety bond. You can get that
Mhm.
through most insurance companies and stuff. Then you'll need to go out and get certain insurances like contingent cargo, liability, and stuff like that. And I hear people say all the time, well, some of those aren't required by the FMCSA to start a brokerage. No, it's probably not required, but I've never met a customer that would do business with us if we did not have contingent cargo, liability insurance, and certain things like that. So
brokers are keeping a lot of the money and they're not getting a lot of it, and they don't know how to communicate with brokers. Is there any tips for owner operators to go out there to have a better opportunity, or some red flags? Because the bad brokers always make the good brokers look bad, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. There is bad brokers out there, just as there are bad carriers. And that's very unfortunate, to be honest, that happens a lot, but it does. The Right now, the rates are trending down, whether you're talking about on the contract or spot market, for sure. We're all feeling the effect, whether you're talking about on the brokerage side or on the asset side. But
Mm.
both sides are right now, our customers are coming to us and say, hey, we need to lower our rates. And so if you have a broker you're dealing with and they're saying, hey, I'm sorry, but we're going to have to lower these rates, chances are their customer is behind that, pushing that. If they're not pushing that, if the customer isn't pushing that, then they're trying to get those rates down because they know that conversation's coming with their customer. It's inevitable. But out of all of our active customers, which is I think around the 350 mark, every one of them has reached out to us in the last 6 months and say, okay, we need to revisit our rates and stuff. As far as communicating with brokers, I like it to not be transactional from the standpoint of, I call it one night stands. It's just the best way I know to put it. They go out there, and some of these carriers, they only deal with the broker one time and then they never speak to him again. And sometimes that's going to be required. Maybe you land in an area that you're typically not, and so you have to do something like that. But really work to build those relationships, especially if you find a broker that has taken care of you and paid you well, or made sure that you were taken care of in some form or fashion. Reach back out to them. Just say, hey, I appreciate the load, appreciate everything you did. Do you have anything like that pops up on a regular basis? Do you have a way to get me back home? This is where I live. Because just like they're trying to build relationships with the brokers. The brokers want to build relationships with carriers. Most all brokers I know, actually, they want those relationships with the carriers. They would rather put it on someone they know and trust than put it on someone new every day. Just because
Mm.
you take the chance of how there's a lot of brokers that run scams, there's a lot of carriers that do too. Matter of fact, I get to see both sides of it. There's probably more bad carriers running scams than there are brokers. It's really wild, and that's been a real shift in the market in probably the last year or so.
Really?
But oh, absolutely, absolutely. Matter of fact, man, that's a whole other show in itself. Probably the double brokering scam and what they're doing to carriers out there right now is wild. It is,
Wow.
yeah.
So we'll for next time we'll have Jason on, and I'm telling you guys right now, Jason is not one of those people that is defending anything. Um, like I said, he put his name Jason. The only reason we even know he has any type of company is because I'm asking him to tell people. But he's 100% here out of the kindness of his heart, just to give you information, and he's just sick and tired of truck drivers and people that want to be brokers or transition into becoming brokers getting their money taken. And
Yes.
so,
Well,
you
we
don't
have to
need to
have
do
that.
it.
They don't. That's the thing. We have to have that conversation anywhere between 3 and 10 times a week. And so when you hear on the other line, when you tell someone, hey, I'm sorry, but that piece of paper that you hold, a certificate, that's not required. You don't need that. Tell us about who you are as a person. And they start finding out. You can really hear the air let out of the cell, man. It's like they're disappointed that they spent all that money and stuff. And like I said, I'm sure not all the information they get from those is bad information. I'm sure some of it is good, legitimate information. But don't go out and spend thousands of dollars that you don't have to, unless it comes with some type of money back guarantee or guarantee of employment afterwards. Don't drop that kind of coin to get something that's not needed.
3 to 10 times a week.
Yes, yeah, and it's becoming more and more prevalent because what's happening is as the rates on the spot market has started going down a little bit. People are looking to make transitions. Maybe they don't want to drive. They want to be an owner operator. It's like, oh, well, I want to go be a broker. Brokers think carriers are the ones that are making all the money, and carriers think brokers are the ones making all the money. And so they look to make that transition. And the first thing they want to do is either be a dispatcher, fleet manager, or broker. And so they take this class, they go through it, and they're like, okay, I'm certified. What's next? And that's when that unfortunate conversation comes to play.
So, I mean, I'm putting in the title. It sounds like 3 to 10 people a week is hundreds to up to thousands of people getting scammed all across America. I'm sure of it.
Absolutely. Because that's just the ones that are calling us, and there's hundreds, if not thousands, of brokerages out there. So, and I would say we're on the smaller to mid-sized brokerage. So I can imagine what some of these larger brokers, how many phone calls they're fielding from this. I mean, it's a real issue that's going on in the industry right now.
Man, no. Overall, I appreciate you for being on the show, Jason. Thank you for taking time, and people, stop getting scammed.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the content, man. Appreciate what you do for the industry.
No, always, man. Yeah, no, definitely.